and welcome to the mess that is going to be episode 54 of the Little Drops of Wonderful podcast. This is my podcast to talk about all things knitting and crochet and craft related, all of the good stuff. It's basically just the disorganised ramblings of a middle-aged woman sitting in her kitchen. Today has not gone well. I'll fill you in a minute. If you are interested in skipping to any particular section of things that I talk about, all the timestamps and the show notes and all the information that you might need are underneath this podcast in the description bar. Yeah, that's where it all is. And my name's Ali, and I live in Kent in the UK with my husband and our two daughters. And what else do I usually say? And I'm Starry Eyes Ali on Instagram and on Ravelry, and there's also a Ravelry group for this podcast, and I always forget to say that, but it's called Little Drops of Wonderful on Ravelry. That's the group name. Yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy morning. It is now it's almost 11:15 now, and basically we got woken up at 6 a.m. by one of our wired-in smoke alarms repeatedly beeping every 40 seconds. Could have done it any time yesterday. No, waited till 6 a.m. on Monday morning, about 35 minutes before my alarm would usually go off. So that was a rude awakening. We thought it was because, although they're wired in, they have backup batteries and they get very upset if the backup battery has run out. So we took the thing off to try and stop it beeping. That didn't work, so I had to go to the supermarket to buy batteries, which I've now changed, but that hasn't worked either. So I've now looked at the instructions and it looks like I'm going to have to clean it, but in order to do that I have to turn off the electricity, so I'm not doing that. Dan can do it when he gets back. But in the process of all of this palaver this morning, Dan had to bring in a ladder from the shed in order for me to perform the battery changing operation this morning, and in doing so brought in only one that I've seen, massive spider that was clinging obviously for dear life to the ladder as it was brought into the house. I caught it crawling down the hallway and returned it to the garden, but goodness knows how many other sneaky spiders got into our bedroom, which is where he put the ladder when he brought it in. So I'm just trying not to think about all that. And this was all before 7:30 in the morning. This is my Monday. I am not going to ramble too long before getting stuck into the podcast proper. I just wanted to say thank you so much for such an amazing response on my last episode to the 8,000 subscriber giveaway. I was completely overwhelmed with comments. I think there were almost 700 comments on my last video because I decided to run the giveaway in the comments, and I will announce that giveaway winner towards the end of this podcast. And in fact, I haven't written that down, so I'm going to write that down now. Right, I've highlighted that in green, so if I forget, remind me towards the end, okay? Okay, so where was I? I told you it was going to be a disorganised one. I'm not going to ramble on too long, I promise. Thank you so much for all of you who have signed up. There's 128 so far who have signed up for the simple snail mail swap. That's quite hard to say. The link is underneath this video. It's a very simple idea. All we are doing is exchanging letters. No gifts, no extras, no presents, no yarn, nothing. The idea is that you literally just write a letter to your swap partner and get a lovely piece of old-fashioned snail mail. So the link for joining in with that is underneath this video. We're going to use Elfster for the first time. Last time I just kind of joined people up using Excel. So yeah, it seems to be working quite well. I don't think anyone's experienced too many problems. My administration of the whole thing will be fairly minimal, but I haven't had too many reports of anything going awry or anyone getting stuck. So if you want to join in, you've got, I think, until, I can't remember, it's my own swap and I can't remember. I think we said the 20th of February. Or did we say the 29th? I'll put it on the screen. So yes, so there's still time to join in with that, and then letters need to be posted by the end of March, so there's tons of time. And oh yes, thank you for all of your lovely comments about Phoebe becoming vegetarian. My youngest daughter is 9, and about 4 weeks ago now she announced that she would like to be a vegetarian. We don't eat tons of meat really anyway, although some of her favourite meals are things like cottage pie and spaghetti bolognese. Not that we have those on a weekly basis. but she decided to become vegetarian mainly due to environmental issues. She's very, very concerned about things like that. So she's been doing really, really well. She came out of school the other day with a packet of gummy bears, gave them to me and said, "Mummy, I can't have these because they've got gelatin in them," and quite happily just ran off to play. And she's really, really sticking to it. And it has been a fairly steep learning curve. I thought it wouldn't be that hard, but actually finding meals that everyone can eat is quite hard. So I'm getting there, and I really want to thank you for everyone that gave me podcast tips, recipes, websites, Instagrammers, cookbooks, and all kinds of things. So thank you so much to all of you, vegetarians, vegans, and otherwise that are out there that have done that. It's really, really helping us to adjust. It's really good. It's fun as well because we're all enjoying all the new foods. I am really rambling. I'm going to shut up. Right, coming up any second now, we're going to talk about some finished objects, some works in progress, a very small incoming sharing the love section. I'm going to do an unfinally section, which is where I talk about anything I like. It doesn't have to be what this podcast is about. It can be anything. And I'm going to talk about 2 non-fiction books for self-improvement. One is about race and one is about anxiety. And they are both fantastic books, so I'm really looking forward to telling you about those. And then there's just going to be lots more ramblings and general asides and musings. So should we get stuck in before I get onto the rambling train? The first section is finished objects. Right, I feel like I just rambled through that 100 miles an hour whilst also talking for about 20 minutes. And I do hope that you can't hear that beeping. It's every 40 seconds. I've got the kitchen door shut. I can hear it because it's like a little irritating person poking me in the ear every 40 seconds. But hopefully the camera won't pick it up. Right, first finished object that I spoke about last time. I've been on a real finishing mission lately, so since the beginning of the year really. So I picked up Phoebe's Hufflepuff mitts and they are now finished. When I spoke to you 2 weeks ago, I think I was up to about here on the first mitt, and I basically completed that mitt and then cast on and finished the second mitt within, I don't know, 48 hours. So quick. I was holding 2 fingering weight yarns double. One is a Norah George one, self-striping sock yarn in the Hufflepuff colourway, as you can see, red, yellow and black. And I used this yarn to make Dan some Hufflepuff socks because he is a Hufflepuff, and Phoebe is a Hufflepuff too. So she now has some lovely fingerless mitts, but most importantly, she can now have them because I've shown them on the podcast. Yeah, so I'm really, really pleased with them. They're really squidgy. I used a pattern which I've now filed away, but it was the You're a Wizard mitts by Gamer Crafting, and I got it free when I bought some of their yarn at, I think it was Walthamstow Yarn Festival, Waltham Abbey Yarn Festival a couple of years ago. Yeah, so how many times can I say and so? Even on episode 54, it doesn't get any better, does it? Hufflepuff mitts completed. Really, really pleased with them. I might make myself some. They're just so nice and squidgy, and you can tuck your fingers away like that if it's really super cold. Or if you need to do something, you can get your fingers out to play with your phone, or, I don't know, scratch your head, pick your nose. Not pick your nose. Well, maybe if you're 9, you might need to pick your nose. Yeah, I showed these a bit on my last Wool-ality TV episode. Thank you for all your comments on that. I've done 2 now and they've been really good fun, and I'll probably do another one before... Sorry, I sneezed. I'm going to do another Wool-ality TV before the month is out. My intention is to do a Wool-ality TV in between every podcast. So I hope you're enjoying them. And that is Phoebe's mitts all completed. Oh, I should say as well that the yarn I held double with this is just a grey, which is what produces that lovely mild effect. Right, I'm going to take a deep breath and a swig of tea and slow down because I feel like I am on a million miles an hour. That beeping. Okay, my next finished object are my Strictly socks. I also said in the last episode that these were in my firing line for getting finished, and I have worked on them loads over the last 2 weeks, and I finally finished them yesterday. And not only that, but I wove in the ends and I blocked them, so big points for me. They are looking fabulous. I absolutely love them. I'll just show you a bit of a close-up of the pattern there. So the yarn is called It's a Disaster, Darling, by Little French Meadow, who I absolutely love, and they don't die anymore, which is really sad for me. And it works so beautifully with this pattern. I'm hoping that you can see how beautifully it comes out in those slip stitches that go all along the top of the foot there. The pattern is called the Downtown Shorties. It's a pattern by Christine Gladwin. She is Sweet Lavender Knits. I got it, it's a paid for pattern, but it was free for like a few days when it was first released. And I ran over and nabbed it because some very lovely person on Instagram alerted me to the fact it was free. And I'm so pleased because it couldn't work more perfectly with the yarn I'll hold up to, rather than hugging one and showing you the other one. I did everything as per the pattern. I did the heel that's in the pattern, which I really, really like. It came out beautifully. And I did the toe as per the pattern, which also came out beautifully. And when I picked up the heel flap stitches, I used a tutorial, which I will link below under the bit where I talk about the shorty socks. I will link to the tutorial below that I use, which avoids you getting a ridge on the inside of the sock when you pick up the stitches for your heel. It was, yeah, I can't remember the name of the tutorial off the top of my head, but I will link to it. I also made a bit of an error in these socks, but by the time I realised I'd done it, it was just way too late, and it really didn't affect, I don't think, how good the socks look. So when you do the ankle part, it's a 3-row pattern repeat, but actually on the foot it's a 2-row pattern repeat, and I just kept doing the 3-row pattern repeat all the way down, and I don't think it's made that much of a difference, but I think it has kind of pulled the sock a bit more, and I did end up doing a few more rows in the foot, a few more rounds in the foot than I would usually. But other than that, I don't think it's made any difference at all. And also I was supposed to stop doing the pattern a few rows before introducing the colour for the toe, which I also didn't do because I didn't read the pattern. I've still got my bag. We talked about this last time. It's ready for takedown now. So the bag is now finished with, and it's time to put it away and all the contents and file the pattern and so on. And that yarn is in there, this yarn that was lurking in this bag. So I'm going to cast on some socks with this actually, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So the Downtown Shorty, this is my copy. I'm not going to show it to you because it's a really rubbish black and white print from my work printer. Okay, I'm just checking if there's anything else I wanted to tell you about it. After I did all the toe decreases and before I did the Kitchener stitch, I used a little trick that I can't tell you because it's in a paid for pattern, but it was from the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas socks by Danny of Little Bobbins. When she does her toes, she does a little slipping of stitchy thing at the end of the decreases, and I like the finish that gives, so I did that in these socks as well, and I think that worked really well. They're going to be for Lilia, and that they were always going to be for Lilia because she loves to wear shorty socks around the house. She hasn't tried them on yet, but her feet are the same size as mine, so I've tried them on and they fit perfectly, and I'm really, really happy with them. So before I give them to her to start destroying, I am going to get some nice pictures of them and get them up on my Ravelry page. I think that's everything I wanted to say about those. I'll probably remember something once I've stopped recording and I'm editing. Okay, so we're going to move on to works in progress, but I've kind of got a finished object that kind of falls in the area between finished objects and works in progress. So in my Hannah bag, this is a little crochet, made up crochet basket that I made, inspired by Hannah of Hannah from Sheep's Alley. I have my seal that I've been making. Now the seal is finished. Ooh, so here he is. I managed to find some black yarn. I didn't think I had any, and then I was looking for something else in my stash, and I found some 4-ply black cotton, so I just held it double because this is all a DK weight. I've done his little bow, or her, could be a her, and I've done his flippers, or her flippers, and he's looking great, or she's looking great. It is looking great, and the only thing is the tail. I've done it exactly as per the pattern in the book. The book is in Zumagurumi. The pattern is in Zumagurumi 8, I think. Zumagurumi 8, and I've done it. I've sewn the tail on the exact position that the book tells me to, but it means when it sits, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. It doesn't quite. It kind of gets pushed forward, and I don't know if that's because the tail is perhaps coming under too much here, or maybe I've overstuffed it. So I haven't sewn in the ends, but I might take off the tail and just do a little bit of adjustment so that the seal will sit on his or her own. But otherwise, very, very pleased. It's so cute. Love the little bow. I'm not sure who this is for yet. It will be for one of the girls, but I haven't worked out who might like this. I think Lilia might like it because it's quite a grown-up one with his sophisticated pastel green bow. So I'll have a think about that. But yeah, it is finished. I just need to adjust that tail, and then I shall take some photographs and put it on my Ravelry. And I use Drops Drops Musket for that. I like to make my amigurumi from cotton just because it feels so smooth, and I'm a bit weird like that. I just think it holds nicely. You may notice some other amigurumi behind me here, which is a bit more fabulous than anything I've made because I haven't made them. But I'm going to talk about those later. Right, moving on to works in progress. I'm not going to talk about everything. I'm just going to talk about the 2 that are on my attack list for the next couple of weeks, because that seems to really motivate me since the beginning of the year to sort of identify projects to attack over the next couple of weeks. Sorry about that. My phone stopped recording because a phone call came in because I'd forgotten to put my phone on airplane mode, which was handy because I started rambling about such boring things that it's probably a good thing that it's all been cut out. So I think we were moving on from my seal to works in progress, and I was saying I'm only going to talk about a couple because they're the ones I've identified to attack over the next couple of weeks. I think that's where we were. So here are the 2 I'm going to talk about. There will be some cast-ons coming up, definitely, but I shall talk about that in a moment. In My Bag by Claudia of Crochet Luna, and I must say about Claudia of Crochet Luna, if you don't watch her podcast, she is all about the crochet. She's a crochet queen, I think it's fair to say, or one of a fairly large group of reigning crochet queens. And she and I, for the last couple of years, have run the Dodgy Bag Make-Along, and we will be doing that again this year. And it will probably be around May or June time. We're just trying to work out the dates. And the Dodgy Bag Make-Along is where we encourage you to have a go at making your own hand-sewn bag. And it's called the Dodgy Bag Make-Along because I call my bags, what I make, dodgy, because that's what they are. And it shouldn't matter, because if you're giving it to someone who appreciates these things, they won't mind that they're dodgy, and then mine are pretty dodgy. And if you're making it for yourself, who cares? And it's just about having the confidence to just have a go and not really worry about mistakes. But more on that will come later in the year, or later in the spring, or pretty soon, or whenever we get our act together. Yes, so in this bag is my favourite jeans top, which I have continued to persevere with, but I'm really, really wholeheartedly not enjoying doing anymore. I've fallen out of love with this project. I can't frog it because I've already blocked it, and it's acrylic, and I steam blocked it, which means the acrylic has slightly melted. I think that's what happens when you heat block acrylic, it kind of slightly melts into place. So it's going to be no good if I frog it. So it either needs to be turned into something else or finished and given to someone else or donated to the charity shop. I think the main problem has been my gauge. And I think what I should have done is just make the biggest size. So, because I think the main problem is it just doesn't fit me. It's inside out at the moment. So this is the inside out version. That is the inside out of the front. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't look that much different on the outside. It's just, you can probably see the seams here where I've attached the arms. And this is the back where you've got this kind of mesh detail, which is really, really nice. And my main problem about fitting is around the arms. It's really, really tight around here. So what I decided to do in the end, so I had done like some extra bits along the top here, so it kind of dropped down a bit, but I really hated how it looked. I thought it looked really messy. So what I've done is attach the arms, but not attach them fully. So I've left like quite a bit on each side, probably not the same amount on each side looking at it. Oh, that's because some of this unravelled and I need to pick up the stitches, that's right. And what I'm going to do is it makes a very wide neckline, and when I pick up to do the rib around the neckline, I'm just going to make that a much deeper neckline as well. So then I will probably put it on and take some pictures of it before either giving it to Phoebe, who seemed quite interested in it, or donating it to the charity shop. But quite frankly, I'll be glad to see this finished and either being worn by Phoebe or just gone, because I spent too long on it. I've fallen out of love with it, and it's been beset with problems of my own doing, I have to say. The pattern is My Favourite Jeans top by Detroit Knots, who is Natalie. She has loads of lovely crochet top designs, really, really lovely. And the problems I've had with this have all been down to my own problems with gauge. And it's nothing to do with pattern. Pattern's lovely. It's also free, by the way. Yeah, My Favourite Jeans top. Yeah, so I am persevering. Did I just catch my hair? But kind of begrudgingly. It's annoying when that happens, isn't it? But I do kind of want to have that sense of having finished it and completing it and seeing what it ended up becoming, even if I know that I personally am not going to wear it. So that is in my firing line for the next 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time, I want to say, right, that's done and dusted. I don't want to be carrying this forward into March with me. Okay, next work in progress is living in this bag. Now, I can't remember the last time I showed this. I don't think it was last time. It might have been a few podcasts ago. This is my travel knitting. I just keep this in my work bag, or whenever we just pop out anywhere. It's like emergency knitting. This is like, in case of emergency, break glass knitting. What if I get stuck in a lift or something? You know, what if for example, we went to the local garden centre for a craft fair yesterday, and we've got Hurricane Kira at the moment. Storm Kira. And it knocked the power lines out in the town, and the garden centre lost power, and all of the automatic doors shut and then wouldn't open. So we were all stuck in this craft fair in the dark with no way to get out, and in the end they had to wedge them open with a crowbar. So that was fun. And I bought a few things which I probably wouldn't have bought had the power not gone out. Maybe it was a sales tactic, but imagine if we'd been stuck there for like days. I mean, it would have been all right for food because there was a restaurant and they had just finished cooking all the roast dinners. So we wouldn't have starved, but I wouldn't have had any knitting because I didn't bring it with me. Anyway, that's what I mean. Emergency knitting, important to have it with you, I feel. But I figured it's been on the go for quite a long time and I haven't really knit on them much, so I thought I'd just finish them because there wasn't much to do. So this is the first sock. The ends haven't been woven in, there's still stitch markers here, and I only kitchened the toe yesterday, and I think I probably stopped maybe about 4 rows too soon. That's it, it's nice and stretchy. They're little shorty socks. They are made with leftover yarn from my drippity drop socks, which are currently stuffed in my boots in the hallway, so I'll put a picture up of my drippity drop socks. My drippity drop socks are possibly my most favourite socks that I have ever made. They fit me so well. I think I'm going to make another pair, and I don't normally make the same thing twice. I'm definitely going to make another pair of those, but I haven't written down any notes for them. I went to look in my sock notebook to see, you know, what I did that made them fit so well, and I haven't written it down. So I'm going to have to inspect them and count how many rows I did in the leg and how many slip stitches are in the heel and how many gusset decreases and then how many rows in the foot to then be able to replicate it because they fit so well. But the yarn I used was this. It's by Ellie of Craft House Magic. It's called Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and the blue is called Cloudy Skies, I think, and it was a sock set, and I think I bought it. Did I buy it? Yeah, I think I bought it a while ago. So I've already made the drippity drop socks, and I had enough left to make another pair of shorty socks. So that's what I did, and I'm really, really pleased. I've done a little stop saying I've done the Christmas tree heel from Ellie's candy cane socks, just to add a little bit of interest and just for fun, which was quite cool. And the rest of it's just a vanilla sock. I did the toe from the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas socks by Little Bobbins, and I think I've done a 2x2 twisted rib at the top, but I can't remember. And the first sock is done, and the second sock is still on it. I was knitting these on short 9-inch short circulars because they were just easy to pick up and knit round and round, but I've really gone off using these. But this has got about another, I think, 30 rows to go before I do the toe. So this is also on my attack list so that I can finish these off as well. Yeah, and I've even got, so from the first sock, I've got this amount left. And I'm going to have about maybe slightly under that for the second sock left. So I'm going to have a nice little mini to like include in a swap at Christmas, or to add to my scrappy corner to corner crochet moss stitch blanket, which I must bring out and show you again soon. Look at my little stitch marker that I've got on these socks. Dan bought me these last year. Aren't they cute? I can't remember where they're from, but he bought me a whole bunch of them. I'm thinking of putting one on a necklace because they're so cute. Yeah, so that's what keeps me company on my over the rainbow socks. And the little pouch, which is ideal for emergency knitting, is by my lovely friend Naomi, who is Cozy Cute Knits. And Naomi sells, she's a sock designer, she has patterns for sale on Ravelry, and I've made a few pairs of her socks and they're lovely. They're some of my favourite pairs. I think my Strictly socks, not last year but the year before, were from one of Naomi's patterns. So yeah, Cozy Cute Knits. Right, no more whips for now, but I did want to say I've got a couple of, one pair of socks that I've already got on the go that I found earlier, but have not brought downstairs with me, that I think I cast on with some leftover yarn from something. And they at the moment, they're just cuffs. So I don't actually know what they're going to be yet. So I'm either going to do those vanilla or find a nice little pattern for those. And I'll share those with you next time. And also this yarn that was hanging around in that bag next to my Strictly socks is called Lemon Drizzle. It's a sparkly one. It's also by Little French Meadow. I've had this for a long time, and for a long time I have wanted this yarn to turn into the Wildflower and Honeycomb Socks pattern, which I first tried to make when I first started knitting socks, and I couldn't do it. And I know now that I can make those socks. So that's what this is going to be. So I'm going to probably cast on these as well, because I think I've been very good at finishing things. I think I can starting things. So I've got the socks that are just cuffs, Wildflower and Honeycomb socks. I've got my Ziggy Interrupted wrap that I talked about in the last podcast, and I'm also going to swatch and cast on the As If Tee by Shay Johnson, because I'm dying to do that, and that'll be my first garment. This is quite fun doing this, but I wanted to mention, because I'm gonna have a couple of socks on the go, Ellie, who is Ellie. I was going to say Ellie, who is Lorraine Ness Crafts, but what I mean is Lorraine, who is Ellie Ness Crafts. Oh, today. It's now 11 and I'm just ready for today to be over. Right, let's start again. Lorraine, lovely Lorraine, fellow Kent dweller Lorraine, who is Elena's Crafts here on YouTube and on Instagram, is having a sock along just for fun until, well, they're always fun, aren't they? I think she's got prizes as well. It's going on until the 30th of June. So for people like me who just take forever to get anything done, that's marvellous. So it's all the details are on her Ravelry. She is LNS Crafts and the hashtag is ENC Socket to me, which is a great hashtag, Socket to me. And that's the hashtag, and you can enter your socks on Ravelry and on Instagram. So I thought I'd just give that a bit of a shout out because yeah, it's fun. And I'm going to join in, I think, if I remember, because this is what I always do. I announce my intention to join in, make the thing, and then completely forget to enter it in the along. But anyway, now you know in case you want to join in. Right, shall we move on to the next section, which is incoming / sharing the love. Oh, no, hang on a minute. I wanted to talk about something else before we do that. Right, pretend I didn't say that. This is a kind of, right, so we've had finished objects and we've had works in progress. This is now the frogging section, which isn't going to be a regular feature because I very rarely frog anything. This is a bit of a blast from the past. You've seen it in my blast from the past section before, which I haven't done in a while. Or what do I call it? Stuff from your, or from your, or something. This I made when I first started crocheting. It's a pattern from the Happy Hooker book by, I think it's Debbie Stoller, from memory, I'm not sure. And I made this for Dan. It's a crochet jumper. It's hideous and he's never worn it because it's hideous. So he was like, look, I'm never going to wear this. Why have I got it in my wardrobe? And I was like, yeah, no, that's fine. Give it to me. I'll wear it on really cold nights. I don't wear it either because it's hideous. It's not very comfortable and it's too big for me. So I can't imagine it. Okay, so it's a question for you guys. Do I donate it to a charity shop in the hope that someone who loves massive jumpers and skulls will find it? Or do I frog it? The yarn is acrylic. It is a worsted weight yarn from memory, I think, or it might be a DK knit. And it is the grey that I held double with a DK weight yarn in order to make my beloved slipper socks. It's the same stuff. And there must be a hell of a lot of yarn in this to have made a jumper of this size. So, do I frog it and make a lovely jumper, either knitted or crocheted for me, or do I donate it? Answers on a postcard. Actually, no postcards, just comment below. Right, now that I've done that, we can actually move on to the incoming bit. Incoming / sharing the love. Okay, so I have a little friend over here. I'm going to bring her over and her little buddies. Oh, oh, sorry. Just hit her head. Okay. This is Caramel. She's been named by Phoebe and she arrived in the week along with these two lovely little octopuses. Now, some of you may recognise who might have made these. So the one with the flower has been selected by Phoebe and she has named her Tilly. Tilly the octopus. Look at the little flower. It's too cute. And then this one has been selected by Lilia, but I forgot to ask her this morning if she's actually come up with a name. But if she has, it will probably be something Korean or K-pop or BTS related, because that's what Lilia is all about at the moment. I'm going to show you some little details on those in a minute. And then this is Caramel, the cat. Or as the person that sent it to us said, you know, it's like Not, as you know, we have a Not our cat who visits regularly. She's actually called Mia. She's not our cat, but she would like to be. But the problem is, as much as she would like to come in every day, Lilia is really, really, really allergic to her. So, yeah, Lilia, my eldest daughter, is very allergic to animals. So she's not allergic to caramel though, not at all. And the moment we opened this, we all fell in love, and she immediately had her own personality. And you know that something is love when it develops an instant personality. Caramel is wise, and she only says meaningful things. That's all she says. So she might say, but they actually very rarely mean anything, but she makes it sound wise, and then she sits back down and she says, inner peace, and she adopts like a meditative or yoga position. So she might say, if you go to school, you will learn inner peace. And it makes Phoebe laugh. We come up with really meaningful sayings for Caramel to say. And Phoebe has been desperate since, I think it arrived on Monday or Tuesday. She has been desperate to hug Caramel in bed, and I haven't let her because I'm a horrible parent. I've said she has needed to be kept nice to be shown off on the podcast. So let's just show off Caramel. Now I'm going to tell you who's made it, and this is going to lead on to sharing the love, because Caramel's got a cat butt. Yes, she does. If we lift her tail, she has a cat butt. And it is by lovely Rel, or Lorel. She's the Dabbling Hook. I'm sure you've probably heard of her. I've followed Lorel on Instagram for quite a long time. And I didn't realise she had a podcast, or maybe, then I thought to myself, maybe I did realise she had a podcast and then didn't watch it, because I do that quite regularly. I get really excited and go, oh my goodness, that person's got a podcast. I'm going to watch it, and then it goes out of my brain. So because she'd sent me this, I thought, I'm going to go and see if she's got a podcast, and she did. So there must have been something in my mind telling me she did already. I'm rambling. And then I got sucked into a lovely little rabbit hole of Lorel's podcast all day yesterday and a little bit on Saturday as well. So she is the Dabbling Hook. Oh, and they're on here as well. Yeah. We're moving on to sharing the love now. So she is the Dabbling Hook. They've both got it. These are her patterns. So not only does she have a lovely podcast where she talks about the things she's making and the craft fair she goes to, and she loves yellow as well. She's a fellow lover of yellow. But she designs these patterns. They're paid for patterns. These are called her octos, I think. There are no sew patterns, so unless you're embroidering the face or adding little details, the actual octos themselves don't require any sewing, the little legs and things, you don't have to sew them on. So she's got those for sale in her Ravelry. She's the Dabbling Hook, and she also sells hat patterns, cowl patterns, mainly crochet, but she has got knitting ones as well. She's got the Ogun Quip beanie, that's a knit one, and they're all sort of quite chunky yarns, and the Victrina beanie, which is a crochet one. And they're both so lovely, and she sells them at craft fairs, and she talks a lot in her podcast about her experiences of vending at craft fairs. So if you're a vendor yourself, or you're a seller of some kind of craft thing, whether you sell the finished product or the yarn to make it or the patterns, you'll probably really be able to identify with some of the stuff she talks about. It's really, really interesting to hear. She also makes tutorial videos as well about how to make things. So not only does she have the podcast, and she sells the stuff she makes, and she sells the patterns, she also shows you how to do stuff on YouTube. She really is so lovely. And the fact that she makes these to sell, and that she sent us, so one for each of the girls and Caramel for us. Caramel so named, I hope, for obvious reasons, by the way. I mean, Phoebe chose the name, but it's because of the colours. It's just amazing because she sells these and makes money from them, and it's so beautifully made. I mean, I do a lot of amigurumi, and I can't come close to this really. Yeah, and she's just so like tactile and lovely. But the fact that she sent this to us is just, it's so lovely, Lorel. Thank you. She's actually Rel. She goes by Rel. I'm just going to pop Caramel back up here. There, she can go back to her inner peace. And we'll pop Tilly and her friend there. I'm going to have to make one of those octos. They are so cute. Yeah, so that's Rel. Go and check her out. She is the Dabbling Hook on Instagram, the Dabbling Hook on YouTube, the Dabbling Hook on Ravelry. You get the idea. And I'll link to her below. And thank you so much, Rel, for sending those. And I hope your pin arrives soon. Right, moving on. Right, before I move on to and finally, I'm going to announce the winner because I've scribbled it here and otherwise I'll forget, of the 8,000 subscriber giveaway. So I announced last time I had cobbled together a few bits and bobs. I've got them here. Hang on, I'll be back in a minute. That was much harder than it should have been, just picking something up from the floor. So I've got a little grab bag from Attic Spin Dye. I've got one of my very dodgy bags that still needs a drawstring putting in. I've got a little empty box which I'm going to put some stitch markers and the like in. I've got a beautiful DPN cozy that was made by Inside Number 22, who's Suzanne. She's Inside Number 22 on Instagram. And I've got this gorgeous skein of yarn which I've been hoarding for the perfect giveaway for it. It's by lovely Hayley at Ducky Darlings, and it's in the colourway Tiger Lily. That's so pretty. So I put those together, and I also said I'd probably just throw in some chocolates and things like that, and I said to you to leave a comment underneath the video to say count me in, and I would draw a winner on the morning of my next podcast. That was this morning, and I drew the winner as the kids were having breakfast and Dan was getting ladders out of the shed and so on, and I used the comment picker website, which allows you to put the URL of the video in and then put in the keywords. So I said to everyone they had to say count me in, so I put in those as the keywords, and the winner that it drew out was Tammy Courtmunch, and I'm saying that wrong, so I put it on the screen. You are the winner. You have won that little prize parcel. So if you could get in touch with me on Ravelry, I'm Starry Eyes Ali, or on Instagram, you can send me a message there. I'm also Starry Eyes Ali, or you can email me at littledropsofwonderful@gmail.com. Let me have your full name and your postal address, and I will get that sent out to you as soon as I can. Oh, and that reminds me as well that I said last time that all the winners had got in touch with me for the Strictly Sock Along, but actually they haven't. I'm still waiting for one of the Instagram winners to get in touch with me. So I might just give her a little poke on Instagram. But just in case, I'm saying again, Becky is Knitting. You are one of the winners of the Strictly Sock Along. So please do get in touch with me. I've got your prize just here. It's all ready to go. I just need your address. Okay, and finally, I haven't got the blinking books. I have to go and get the books that I want to talk about. Honestly, I'm such a disorganised mess for this podcast. Right, so and finally is where I can talk about whatever I like. Doesn't have to be about knitting or crochet or anything. So I thought I would talk about a couple of books that have come into my life in the last couple of months, or the last few weeks really, that I just wanted to share with you. So they're both non-fiction books. I'm going to hold them both up and then I'll decide which one to talk about first. So in order of them being received, no, because I can't remember. Right. So this one is Me and White Supremacy by, I always say Layla. It's not Layla, is it? No, it is Layla. Ayla F. Sard. Layla F. Sard. And First We Make the Beast Beautiful by Sarah Wilson. So two books about very different subjects. Let's talk about this one first. So I first heard about this book last year when it wasn't a book, because it was shared quite a lot when the discussions around race and representation in the Yarny community started. And it started off there as a kind of Instagram challenge. And then in Vlogtober, I talked about the stylist.co.uk have a list of the best non-fiction books that were due to be published in 2020, and this was on it, and it on so many other books besides. So many books on that list that I want to read. I can't remember the name of the Vlogtober that I talked about it, but I can put the link below to the website with all the books, the best non-fiction books for 2020. There were some really varied topics on there, everything from race to fashion to mental health, postnatal depression, all kinds of subjects are covered. It's such a good list to sort of get you started on, some non-fiction stuff, because it's good to read some non-fiction. So this was what, among some of the books featured that I really wanted to get. I pre-ordered it and it arrived, I think, last week or the week before. Each chapter in this book ends, so the idea is you don't just read it, it's not like a passive thing. Each chapter ends with questions that you can ask yourself about what you've just read to kind of get you to reflect and look at how you might question things. So I am tentatively looking forward to this. I know sometimes when you're really busy and by the way, I hope I'm holding that up high enough. I recognise when I'm holding things like, in the last podcast I was holding it really low so you could just see me holding something but not the fact that it was the book or the yarn. When you're really busy and you find it hard to find time to read, and that's me, I struggle so much fitting reading in at the moment because I don't commute on a train, I drive to work, so I don't get that time, and I use a lot of my waiting time for knitting or crocheting, so I tend to read when I'm in bed, and even then it doesn't matter how early I go to bed, 10 minutes after I'm in bed I'm ready to go to sleep, so I get very little reading done then. And also at the end of the day when you're tired, it's quite hard sometimes to read a non-fiction book, which is what I'm doing at the moment. I'll get onto this one. So I think with this one as well, because it's not a very passive thing, it's going to have to be a daytime book, and I'm going to have to carve out some time in my day to actually make the time to read it whilst I'm feeling awake. So that's something I really want to do. It's not a particularly thick book. It's a really, I know this sounds silly, it's a really nice book. You know, it's a good quality hardcover. You know, the paper's good quality, and yeah, there's a lot of information. I've only read the first couple of pages, and I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into it. Right, the other book that I've got is by Sarah Wilson, First We Make the Beast Beautiful. I talked in episode 52 about how this book came into my life in a very serendipitous way. But the short version of it is that I was listening to a podcast by the author who I had never heard of in my life. I swear that beeping is getting louder. And I couldn't even tell you why I was listening to that podcast when I'd never heard of her, and I just thought she sounded so interesting, and she was talking about this book. She wasn't on to talk about the book, it happened to come up. It sounded really interesting. I got to work, I put it in my Amazon basket thinking I might check out later, and then I got an email from someone saying, I've got this book and I'd really like to send it to you, which was just, yeah, very strange. Anyway, as you can see, I've started reading it at bedtime, which is why I'm not very far through it, because you have to concentrate on it. I'm trying to take it in. It's a non-fiction book, and I always fall asleep after 10 minutes. It's about anxiety. I didn't say that, did I? It's a story from her perspective about dealing with anxiety, and so far every page I've read, I could have written it. I could have written it. I'm not saying as in I have skills. I'm saying I could have written about it in exactly the same way. Everything she is talking about, I can 100% identify with. So that alone has been a massive thing for me, because I've never really understood why I feel so different and not entirely pieced together correctly. And this is starting to make me see that actually there are a lot of other people who are feeling the same way that I feel, but can actually put it into words that I can then understand and process. So to just, it sounds ridiculous, but to just have a label and a name, anxiety, is an enormous relief. So I'm really enjoying it. So those are my two books. First We Make the Beast Beautiful by Sarah Wilson, and Meat and White Supremacy by Layla F. Sard. So if any of you are interested in these subjects, this is what I happen to be reading about them. Is that it? I think it is. I feel like I've been talking forever and not at all at the same time. Who knows? Until I sit down and edit it, I never have any idea if the podcast is just going to be utterly awful. I mean, by that point, there's not much I can do about it. I'm not going to film it again. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I wanted to share one last thing with you, which I realised I forgot to show you in Works in Progress. This is an old work in progress, living in one of my very favourite bags. This was a gift, I think, from my mother-in-law one birthday, because I love lobsters. And in this bag is living my Cornwall socks. Now these have a bit of a history. The yarn was a gift from my friend Sarah One Daisy. It's down Sheepy Lane, and I think it was called Sun, Sea and Shale, possibly. I can't quite remember. Why have they been moved on to... Oh, that was it. I needed the needles for something. So they're just being held on these DPNs. They're actually being knit on 2mm needles. So I started these in April 2018, so nearly 2 years ago. My knitting was very different then, and I knit a lot looser. So 2mm needles worked for me quite well. And now I'm not so sure, although to be honest it doesn't look too bad, the gauge, but I do knit a bit tighter now. And I was making up the pattern. It's a self-striping yarn, and I was making up a kind of little yarn over pattern to coincide with the changes in the colour. I couldn't find anywhere that I'd written it down, stupidly, so I've been sort of looking at them in detail, trying to work out what the pattern was. I stopped making these because my dad in April 2018 suddenly took a turn for the worse. My dad, between January and April, was diagnosed with brain cancer. And it took a while because he also had Parkinson's disease for many, many years, and the symptoms of the brain cancer and the Parkinson's could have been just identical. So it took a while to identify that it was brain cancer that he was suffering from. And in April he took a real turn for the worse, and we were in Cornwall at the time, and he was supposed to come with us, and he ended up being too unwell to come, but he insisted that we all go because it was my mum's 70th birthday. So we all went, but while we were away he took a turn for the worse, and it was just possibly the worst the drive home was the worst day of my life to date. It was just horrendous, and I couldn't knit on these because I didn't want to knit those memories in. So I don't know whether to continue with them and sort of use them as a symbol of moving on and remembrance, or frog them and start them again, perhaps on needles that I'll have a better gauge with. A 2-year break is perhaps going to cause a bit of problems. And I can just start again. Also, I don't really like knitting toe-up socks anymore. I much prefer knitting top-down. And I've started making notes about what the pattern was. So it's another thing about, it's like the frogging of that crochet jumper. It's a decision project, what to do. I think I'm going to end up ripping it back and starting from the top down and making them when I go to Scotland this Easter. Or I don't know, but I wanted to share that with you and just tell you about that little story and dilemma around it, and why I stopped, and why the decision about what to do with them is a bit awkward, because if you leave 2 years between picking up a project and putting it down, it's going to cause slight problems, isn't it? Because my knitting is definitely completely different to how it was 2 years ago. Right, I am going to say goodbye. I hope I haven't rambled too much. I hope you've enjoyed what I've shared with you. If you are a winner, please get in touch with me, and I will see you in a couple of weeks' time for the next podcast. I think by then it will be March, which is unbelievable. The year is galloping on already. And I'll probably see you in between time for a bit of Woollality TV. If there's anything you want me to cover in Woollality TV that you're particularly interested in, just let me know and I'll try. I can't promise I will, but I will try to cover it. I was thinking I might maybe do a bit about my project bags, because I've got quite a lot, or my yarn stash, or anything really, because it's, you know, it can be about anything. My next daily vlog series will be in April, but I'll tell you about that more a bit nearer to the time. Right, I think that is everything, and I'm going to stop rambling and I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Bye.